All right, let's go ahead and begin with Mr. Sedfrey Linsangan.
Good morning to all of you, Senators. While I am in the opposing side, I have to commend you, Senator Ridgell, because during the campaign, you indicated that this is one of your platform. And now here we are debating with this issue. And I also like to commend that you and your co-sponsors have, together with your staff, have made a very good work. You have almost 27 pages of document for this marijuana bill. Well, first of all, correct, there are 33 states, U.S. states, that marijuana, medicinal marijuana is legalized. And there are 10 states, U.S. states, that recreational marijuana is legalized. That's 10 out of 50 for recreational marijuana. Looks like the percentage is not on your side because there are still 40 that is against it or not legalizing the recreational marijuana. Now, despite that it is a federal law, in 1970 it was enacted Controlled Substance Act that it is classified as a dangerous drug. It is illegal because for having high potential for abuse, and it is not safe to use without medical supervision. Let us check how did the U.S. states that are sovereign get away with this. If you will study their process or their method, they use the people's initiative to propose the marijuana to be medicinal and recreational. That's how you neutralize the federal law, not through legislation. Because through legislation, even if it is legislation through submission, which was effectuated during the medicinal marijuana, is wrong. Because you don't have authority. When it's illegal, it's illegal. No matter what you do, you have to follow the process. Because the people, we the people are the sovereign. And the only way to neutralize the federal law or to overturn the federal law is through initiative. Because through initiative, there will be an educational reach out to everybody. That's why we have so many problems with medicinal marijuana. For 5 years, it is not really being implemented according to their expectation. Because the physicians knew that it is illegal, that you did the wrong process, this body, on the medicinal marijuana. They went to the legislative submission, which is not authorized by the Organic Act. In fact, the only authorization that you have is to initiate a referendum if you want to remove a governor, a lieutenant governor, or one of your colleagues, unless you garnered a 2/3 of the votes of the Senate. Now, Mr. Chairman, that's why it is very important that the right method is adhered. Let the people or a group of people do the process. Just like in Missouri, they collected 220,000 signatures. There's a group of people. And also in our law, we need to collect signatures, 10% of the registered voters. And then you have to distribute voters' pamphlet to every mail, to the mayor, to the judge, to the legislature. So there will be an educational reach out to everybody. So every issue will be covered, will be engaged. The people will be engaged. And then in our law, you need to conduct 10 village meeting, that is recorded and documented. That's why this legislation is a violation, is a gross violation of Organic Act, not only gross, but it is flagrant and blatant violation of law. And because of this, in case this one will pass, you're putting the government at risk. Because no legislation that you created, even you created a law that will protect the government from lawsuit. The people can still file a lawsuit against the government, and you will put the government treasury at risk. Because in the first place, it is illegal. And the way the medicinal marijuana is being implemented, there's no physician that is recommending it. No? If you want this legislation to succeed and to progress, you have to follow the right process. You have to follow the right process, and that's not only violation of federal law, but also constitutional right because of the procedural due process, which is the right process for the people to make the initiative, to make that law. Because let's say, for example, why do the California get away with this? There's 10 million people that voted for the recreational marijuana, and there's 8,500,000 that is against it. So how could the federal government put to jail those 10 million people? That's why they cannot do anything about it. They're just silent. They're just lax. So that's how you do to get away with the federal law. You let the people do the initiative. Because by doing so, with this legislation, you are not only violating the federal law, but also the constitutional right, the due process, the procedural process, and then the substantive due process, which is the right of a person that the government cannot take away, that cannot interfere. Just like the game foul here on the island, it's a culture. The U.S. Congress have no business to interfere with the culture of the people, you know. And I'm just frustrated that the governor did not raise this concern to the Congress, because she promised that she will raise this concern. And then also taxation without true representation. We have a Congress in the U.S. Congress that cannot vote. And then we don't have any representative in the U.S. Senate. We need to have a senator also that is represented in the U.S. Senate, financed by the U.S. federal government, because we are paying IRS taxes. It's called representation without true representation. This is the reason why the U.S. founding fathers staged a revolt. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, they're also members of the game foul fraternity. Even Abraham Lincoln, he's a referee in the game foul fraternity. That's why, to support his living, he worked as a referee. And you need to have that character to stage that revolt, and that's what they did. And that's what we need to do also. We need to file a lawsuit against the U.S. government for not letting our Congress vote in the U.S. Congress. And also, we need to have a Senate that can represent us in the U.S. Senate that can also vote. That's why, Mr. Chairman, I hope that you will reconsider this bill, and reminds me of the quote of Neil Blumenthal. It's not the amount of wealth or money that you accumulated or the profit that you gain. It is the impact and change that you created. I know you're trying to make a change, but let's do it right. And I hope I was able to make an impact that will change the position of you and your co-sponsors. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Linsangan, for your testimony. Just to clarify a couple of things you mentioned quickly, with regards to its relation to the Organic Act, I did check with the Legislative Legal Counsel, and it's their opinion that we are okay to proceed with this bill, that it's not in violation of the Organic Act, and that's our legal counsel's opinion. In addition to that, with regards to the states that have legalized it via referendum, that is correct. There are many that have. However, there are some states who have begun legalizing it through their legislatures. In fact, I believe I don't remember which state offhand, but I think it may be the state of Vermont. I could be incorrect, but I remember at least 1 or 2 states have legalized it via their state legislatures. So just to clarify those two issues. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I respect your opinion, but just like what I said, that's only an opinion of the Legislative Council. The right jurisdiction for this is the federal court that has the judicial power on equity and laws arising from the federal law, constitution, and treaties of the United States, because this federal law, constitution, and treaty take precedent or priority over the territorial law or the Guam law. And also, I like to add that all those 33 states and 10 states, they all use the initiative process.
That's what I'm saying is incorrect.
the
There actually
legislative
there is at least one state that has legalized via the state legislature. That's
thank
not
you,
opinion, that's fact. Thank you, Mr.
that's still-
Linsangan. Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. All right, and
excuse me, sir. Just 1 minute. This one is just very important from the scientists. Just give me 1 minute, please.
sure, this is relative
Thank
to
you.
the bill.
Yeah. Ruben Baler, health scientist at National Institute on Drug Abuse. Much of concern is with young people who use the drug because drug interfere with the development of the brain while it's still maturing. Smoking marijuana interferes with connection being made in the brain at a time when the brain should not be at a clear state of mind and accumulating memory and data and good experiences that should be laying out the foundation for the future. And we got to remember the youth, the young, that is the hope of our island. So we need to protect them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.